Hi everyone, and welcome back to another Ascension update with me, Shruti. You're watching Living Our Ascension. So this is going to be one of those longer videos because it's an Ascension update, and I'm going to be naming this one the Galactic Human Convergence, and I'll explain why as we go on in this video. So there's a lot that's been happening recently, and you might have watched a previous video of mine. It was an Ascension update speaking about a grander Ascension cycle that has landed, and especially we're going to be playing it out in 2018, starting this year, because I made it in the month of December last year. And it was speaking about the things that are changing in our ascension and what we will be focusing on the ascension path, for those of us who are kind of pioneering the way and doing things for the first time, and what's changing with regards to that. So there's some things that I want to speak about today, and the first one is that we are transcending these karmic balancing that happens between volunteer souls. So, for example, we have been meeting people from our soul family over the past few years, but what we are going to be doing now is quite different from before. The frequency, there's always a change in frequency because the earth keeps absorbing more and more light, and we also keep on getting lighter and lighter in our vibration as long as we are doing the inner work sincerely. And because of this, things keep changing, and also aside from our own embodiment as well, we over time, because ascension happens in different stages, and the first stage was perhaps coming into our own self-mastery, and then the more that we test things out in the physical, whether it's our career or relationships, because everything acquires a new frequency and must be aligned with the new. So we crave these new partnerships that are transcendental, as well as the work that we do becomes more service oriented, so everything shifts. And I've addressed this a little bit in previous videos as well. So with each year, it keeps on expanding and becoming lighter and lighter, what we can live at the physical level as well. And when you test things out in the physical, there can be a lot of things like a trial and error sort of a thing, and with that we really immensely grow as well. And especially for the volunteer souls who have not, their history has not been living on this planet for so many lifetimes, that's more, they came here to serve the ascension of the human, and pave the way for that. So their experience perhaps can be a bit lacking when it comes to the physical side of things, and when we meet each other, especially other volunteer souls, people from our soul family as well, the closer that they are, especially if it's primary soul family, then in the past few years, when we met, there was a lot of triggering that went on as well. Of course, we always mirror each other's divinity too, and we come into, through seeing the divinity in another and what we are so attracted to in another person, we come into our own soul as well. But there was also a lot of triggering that went on, and through that we realized the deepest patterns that we held within ourselves, because perhaps when you met other people who were not choosing the new, they were just choosing something of the old, then this is maybe not something that you were so attracted to. So there was never this sense of competition or things like that with other people, because you kind of stood out, you had your own individuality. But then when we start meeting people who are our soul mirrors, who especially primary soul family, they actually carry codes that are very close to what we are in soul as well. And then when you come into contact with others who are so close in soul, and then you start to distinguish within that even what is your individuality, even though it's so close, the frequency is so close. And I want to explain this briefly, if for those who are not familiar with it. But primary soul family is, it's a creation concept. So we have the higher self, and the higher self gives birth to this 6 pairs of twin souls. So that's 12. And the twin souls, you can say that they're 2 souls, but really it's 1 soul. And it's like an umbrella, if you imagine, like those flow charts where you have one and then there's these branches that are coming down. So the higher self contains this family, and these beings that are the 12, they are what is our primary soul family, basically the closest to us in soul, of like vibration. And before this time, they weren't really meeting so rampantly as it's happening in these years, because we are at this stage in our ascension where we can handle this, because it can be very triggering. People speak about how, wow, I met my soulmate, and when I meet my soulmate, it's going to be amazing. But the thing is that if you were so ready to be so intimate with your soul, then all of the things that are happening in our lives, we would have met it, also seen it that intimately, and gone through the death process, because a lot of it has to do with the death process that we are not always comfortable with. So in truth, if you are really ready for that, then you would be embracing death, and I don't mean physical death, but there's death that happens every single day. This transformation, letting go of everything that you knew yourself to be, that's immensely challenging. So only the beings who really do that work every day, and it's not just once, it's every day, get to that intimacy within themselves where they are so close to their soul that they are choosing that, and then they attract others who are of like vibration. But like I was explaining, so there's the higher self with the different souls, which forms our primary soul family and our twin soul as well. And above that, however, because there's levels above the higher self as well, within creation there's many different levels. And when you go above that, so if you imagine like this head over soul, or levels above, they hold many more beings. So they will hold one higher self, another one, like that. So you can see that this higher being then is connected with so many different souls. So then that becomes our secondary soul family, all of the group of souls that is contained within that. So it's much more common for us to run into members, or it has been over the history of the planet, to run into souls who are our secondary soul family, and so on, further distant as well, relatives, you can say. But primary soul family was less common. And the guidance basically that Spirit is sharing with me now is that we might have met some members of our primary soul family if we really did activate that level of intimacy, a certain level in our ascension, and there was some triggering, but now we are coming back to meet them in a different way. So let's say in the past few years you might have let go of certain relationships as well, because that was necessary. Certain things happened and it was right for this parting to happen. Then that frequency might be coming back. So it might be in the form of the same soul, or someone else. It doesn't matter, but it's about the same frequency though. And when we come together this time, it's not so much about the karmic balancing. And also, again, on the note of karmic balancing, I want to say that this karma is galactic. So for the volunteer souls, the starseeds that came here, they came here from different civilizations, star civilizations, and all of those civilizations, it's not as if everything in this universe was happening in a completely aligned way, in the sense that there was a lot of duality and things that went on other planets and star civilizations as well. And so we might have held those memories and contained those patterns within us as well. And this rebalancing that went on, the triggering that I've been speaking about went on, more than the earth karma has for volunteer souls, has to do more with the galactic karma, the starseed karma. And once now that has been balanced out for those who really did embrace the lessons, I don't usually like to use the word lessons, but let's say the wisdom that they were shown, what they were shown needs to be shifted. So if you have done that, then it's time now to create at a new level with the same frequency of your primary soul family, and meet in a new way that is about the creation, the true creation, co-creation that is beginning this year and will go on and develop, in the coming years as well. So that's why the name of this video is the Galactic Human Convergence, because we're going to be seeing more and more physical co-creations. And these new souls are coming together, in a new way to support each other in various different ways, whether it's emotional or in our work, in the healing process, all of it. And this is really beautiful when that happens, because it creates this really high level of energy, when two souls who are so sincere with their process and have activated a certain level of vibration, it really creates something transcendental and can really benefit, both beings, and really uplift what it means, what love means on the planet, because we're experiencing it for the first time. For example, when we were in relationships with different people all our lives, who did not carry this vibration, certain things didn't come out from inside of us, certain things that we do see reflected when we meet other new souls. So these kind of co-creations will be happening more and more on the planet, and in a physical way, not just online and stuff like we have seen so far. So that's something that's really exciting, and that's going to be the focus as well. Ascension is shifting. The focus of Ascension is shifting, not only from our own self-mastery and the work that we do on an individual level, especially when we do it in isolation. It's now shifting more to the external and in partnerships with others. So this is going to be the focus now in the coming years. This is what Spirit has been sharing with me, a lot recently. So the next point I want to speak about is also really important. It has to do with our service, which is changing in big and significant ways. And I'm going to explain how. But what's happening is that our field is expanding, our electromagnetic field is becoming more especially for those of us who anchored a certain level of mastery, and were connected to source from that inner heart space. Then it's, the field is expanding also in the external. And what's happening really that Spirit has specifically been sharing with me is that we are beginning to serve not only our own lineage, our soul lineage. So for example, like I come from the Lyran lineage, Lyran and Pleiadian, these are my main ones. And perhaps in recent years, we have been speaking about our particular lineage and bringing through codes related to that, remembrance related to that, as well as it's not just the work that we do or what we share and say, but just the energy that we hold. And now it's expanding. So for example, I've been having these really strong activations that suddenly happen at night, where Spirit shared with me that you're becoming a vessel for the universe to speak through you. So it's not just those particular lineages that you are attached to, rather because you hold a certain level of vibration. Once somebody holds a certain level of vibration, because there's so few on the planet who do that yet, so then whatever needs to be shared, whatever's for the highest good, you will become the vessel for that. The universe will use you, for that purpose, basically. And so in this way, we are becoming these portals of galactic and interdimensional tasks to be carried out. So we're shifting not only from serving our soul legacy to the galactic and interdimensional legacy of light, through all of the beings who are connected as one and serving at different levels of in different dimensions. And what I was experiencing, for example, when these activations happen, is that through the white light column, which is our higher self, it connects us to our higher self, this light this white light column that is often spoken of. It's not just light, it is you. And when you fully ground it, this is the being that you are, because you're not just this physical body. And this larger consciousness that you are comes into your body, and that's why we feel so much grander than just, one human body. And so it's connected, to all of consciousness, basically. So whatever your service is needed for the now, within your divine purpose, whatever the it's like whatever is ordained by the divine, it happens through you, and your higher levels assist with that. But there can be many different beings now that are that want to work with us. So our guides might be changing as well, the messages we share might be changing, the art creativity we do might be changing, but most of all, it's also just in the field that we hold. And when you are grounded to a certain level and holding your source vibration especially, then the town that you live in and even the whole planet is influenced by your energy. So whatever you are going through in your own personal ascension process, and all of those deep revelations, all of those deep transformations, when you are doing it for yourself, because you hold such an immense field, it's kind of like that's your kingdom, that's your home, you can say. It's like you are given a bigger space that you are responsible for. And when you're cleaning it out, when you are bringing in new codes, whatever you are doing, it's your environment and the planet is also gets to experience that, and you really bring those levels here. So it's not something small, it's very, very significant. And so pay attention to your the things that are changing with regards to your service and the messages that you're receiving yourself. And just like we have these meetings between new souls, the volunteer souls, we also, what's expanding is these interactions that are within the fifth dimensional divine love vibration between human souls and the new souls. So the beings, the majority of the beings on the planet today are humans. They've had many different lives on this planet, and they carry that genetic memory. But the ones who are really going forward in their ascension process, who are advanced humans, you can say, because recently I'm really seeing this. Spirit always shows me when I interact with different people, and in my services as well, when I meet people one-to-one, when I work with them at a more intimate level, because it becomes clear how much inner work they have done within themselves. And this always points to the maturity of the soul and their light levels. So what's happening is that, as part of this galactic human convergence, it's not only about volunteer souls, of course. And what's happening, basically, Spirit told me, is that these interactions between advanced humans and new souls is also creating, this new culture, and that's what we can look forward to in 2018 as well, that this will be happening more and more within more intimacy. Is that the creation of the white light column will be happening for the humans as well, at a more increased pace than it has perhaps been so far. Because the thing to understand here is that the new souls, they bring the energy of the galactic energy and the light levels, and what the humans are masters of is the earth plane, is working with matter. And they're not necessarily so different from each other, because it's like whether you're a master, when you are really masterful in knowing your way around the physical dimensions, the physical world, you can really master anchoring light and working with the light, in creating things that work in the physical realm, that are sustaining, long-lasting, that actually are practical as well. So this is really important. It's not as if the body or the physical is any less important than light. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. You wouldn't be here in a physical body. You wouldn't have chosen it at that level when you first came out of source as a human, because this is always a choice that we are given. We choose to come forth as whatever we are. And these co-creations, so for example, for the new souls, they are more adept at working with light, or working with light technology of different kinds, and they don't necessarily always have such an intelligence when it comes to being in a physical body. So that's why our challenges can be a little bit different sometimes. Perhaps we're not as practical or not as experienced when it comes to the physical body, and things, we can be hypersensitive in the beginning until we master it, about certain things about the physical world as well. So the meeting of these two types of souls is really important, because we help each other to sustain ourselves, to bring forward our gifts and have that support to do so, have that motivation, encouragement to do so, and we really support each other in that way. And what's also happening for the humans as well is that they will be integrating these galactic memory and codes as well, with because of these messages, these new messages that are coming through, about the various dimensions, about these different star lineages, and within their interactions with new souls. Sometimes it's not even just words, that are exchanged, and just the energy that's held when two souls share space in some way. So the human is also integrating the white light column, advanced humans, and advanced humans are integrating these galactic memories as well, even though it might not have been their history, the lives that they have had might not have been a lot of galactic experiences, but still, because we exist within this universe, and the whole universe, the different planets have had their own history. There's been lots of wars and all kinds of things, as long as as well as different light-based situations like technology and revelations of love and remembering what you are. So the human is also integrating that, within themselves after a certain level of healing, the basic earth healing that happens, of the lives that we have had on this planet. Then after that, it's time to also integrate these, to also balance the galactic levels, and then after that, these higher galactic and spiritual levels, the codes can really become imbibed in our cellular memory, and that starts becoming the creation of the white light column and our ascension process too. So these interactions between all different kinds of souls, because Earth is a melting pot, of different star civilizations, and we're really going to start seeing that at the next level within this year in 2018. So it's something that's really exciting. So since I was speaking about these activations that happen at a galactic level, these galactivations, I guess, we have been having a lot of them recently, and Ascension symptoms are running really high as well. So for example, I've been feeling this, it's like when the nerves, they start to feel a slight burn sensation, like a burnout sensation, or this naked nerve feeling. And if you want to know more about Ascension symptoms and whether you are actually experiencing them or not, I have a separate video for that which explains everything in details, which I'm not going to go into here. And I will try and link it below if I remember. Otherwise, you can find it on my channel. It's just there's only one that I've made so far that has Ascension symptoms in the title. But basically what happens is that when we are landing a new level of power, especially in the physical, when it's about to become physically grounded, and in the way that we can actually use it as skills and talents and guidance, in our everyday, when it's becoming that physical, then we start to the body really starts to go through these high tantric states, and what that involves is a lot of vulnerability. So suddenly it's kind of like, I've used this example before, but it's really the best example that I can give. It's kind of like, right before we have sexual intercourse with someone, we tend to feel vulnerable, because it's like our genitals are not covered, and it's like the most vulnerable part of us. And it's that feeling that you get all over your body because you've grounded that level of light, and your whole body feels like that electricity that happens when two souls combine and meet, the tantric energy that flows through us. And imagine being like that always, in your whole body, being that vulnerable and just walking around on the streets or doing whatever you do every day. So these kind of symptoms happen. You can feel hypersensitive to everything, but just hold the space of groundedness and centeredness within that, because this has been happening for a few days now, and it usually continues for a few days or a week when it happens, and this one is pretty strong, so usually it takes a while for it to fully integrate into the body, and until then we can expect to have some ascension symptoms like this, also some burnout sensations in different parts of the body too, but just know that there's nothing wrong with you, if ascension symptoms is something that you have experienced before. It's just a process, and it just means that there's new light that's landing. So while these ascension symptoms, when this is happening, what's also important to know is that sometimes we get a bit confused, because there is something that we do need to shift, for example, and like I spoke about in a previous video, Saturn recently changed signs, and that relates to these larger cycles in astrology, because it takes 2.5 years in one sign. So it affects one area of our life, and Saturn is the planet associated with, things like karma, and just where we really need to be grounded in the physical. It shows us the bare ground reality, the truth, So anywhere where we have not been fully grounded, it really comes to light. And we already shifted that, in the previous month in December, in November and December. And now we already moved into the new, and we're experiencing that. But things do still take time to fully crystallize. So, for example, as a personal example, I spoke about how there were some nutritional deficiencies that I found in my body, and there was this chemical as well that was there because I was excessively eating something, and that because of that, my nutritionist, I have a holistic nutritionist, and she suggested like this detox diet, which I'm on right now. So even though I've shifted into the new, and I can already feel all of these changes in my body, and it's changed so much, but still, the process is still underway, the detox process. And while this is happening, things might still be coming up from time to time. And when they do, we can feel like, so for example, here I live in San Francisco, and we've been having these wildfires in California, in the state of California, for ever since the month of October, maybe even before that, I don't know. But for 2 months, more than 2 months now, it's been, the air quality goes pretty bad, quite frequently. And while normally, normal people might not be affected by this so much, but I can really feel it because I'm already, my physical, the health symptom that I was speaking about was related to breathing, because of that chemical that was found. And at the same time, while I've already implemented such big changes, these days keep happening where where the air is suddenly bad, because the fires are burning, and it, when it floats to this side of San Francisco, then I can feel it in my body, and finding it difficult to breathe as well. And we can wonder that, I've already made all the changes that I need to, and I'm doing everything right. Then why the need for these challenges? Why do I create this in my life? And we all have those moments of vulnerability that we feel. But Spirit, will always, when Spirit is really speaking to you, they'll remind you that it's not that you've done something wrong, or that you are weaker than others or something like that, because everybody else seems to be fine with it, most other people. But you can often wonder that, I've anchored a certain level of strength in my ascension, and I'm spiritually empowered, but at the same time, at times I feel much more vulnerable than, just anybody in general. So when you have those moments, remember that it's basically, you are being trained. It's like an athlete. If you're an ace athlete, one of the best on the planet, then you kind of have to go beyond your own record. If you are the one setting the highest record, then, there's nobody else to beat it. So growth and expansion for you, which is something that never stops as long as we are, alive. The only way that it can happen is when something like this, when we are pushed beyond our own limit, in a sense. And so it can often feel like, that was the finish line, and I ran, and I got there, and suddenly it's not the finish line. I'm shown that no, it's like much beyond, and I have to keep doing it, and there's nobody else who's done it before me, so I don't really know what I'm doing and how. And of course that can be a place of vulnerability, but it's also the place where you become a pioneer. It's pioneering energy. It's unique. The legacy that you have come here to leave behind, that is born in times like this. So in order for that frequency to really land of this genius, of our soul, of our spirit, of our light legacy, in order for that to land, that's why we have those challenges, because it's not about healing. It's more about this genius that lands, this genius that the human is becoming, that the human is in truth, but we haven't used so far, we haven't utilized it. So be compassionate with yourself when things like this are happening, and remember the higher truth, that you're not stuck, you're not going back into the past or anything. It's just that there's more and more, the finish line keeps on expanding. So another important message that I've been receiving is that it's time for us to go lighter when it comes to our physical sustenance. And recently I was watching a video of Adamus Saint Germain, Jeffrey Hoppe channels Adamus Saint Germain, and it's on the YouTube channel Crimson Circle. And basically he was speaking about how the body, the enlightened body, the body of the new human, is relatively independent and doesn't need very much from the physical world. It's sustained by light, basically. That's what it is. And this frequency within us is really expanding. So I remember in his video he was saying that you still need some things, but there's very little that you need. And it's true, because in the past, for example, we all know of these yogis. In India, it's very common for people to know that there's all of these yogis that just live in the mountains, and they don't even eat. They survive just on prana, on life force energy, on the breath, and that's it. And while our purpose might be different, because we have a different purpose, we are supposed to be within society, within the masses, and reform society from within. Show the example of the new human that lives in a state of ascension in their body, and carries out their everyday life in the way that we know it. Of course it's changing, but it's still much closer to how we know society to be, than just a yogi who goes and lives in the mountains. So of course your mission is different, but at the same time we are getting lighter and lighter with every year, and you might surprise yourself with how little you need. The food that you eat might be you might be seeing your body transform and needing less food, or lighter food. And I was so surprised to see, the food that I eat these days, and how I couldn't have imagined that, on such a light diet, that I could have gone through the day before this. And that's why there were these different symptoms that were happening in the body, because it wasn't required. But often we can have these old ideas of what is required. And at the same time, another example that I want to give about feeding the old is sometimes we don't realize it. So for example, when it comes to the air in San Francisco, I would keep going to the website to check, what's the air like today, and just doing that so often in the day, to see, is it changing? Because it changes very drastically here. And another interesting fact that I found here is that California is actually under the sign of Scorpio, one of its signs. I don't remember if it's the sun, but every country and every place also has its own astrological chart, and one of the signs is Scorpio, the main signs for California. And that's how the fires also happened. Everything gets destroyed. Our next door neighbor, they actually, they play basketball a lot, and their basketball came into our yard, and so they came over and they were speaking to us about how they actually have a home in Southern California where the fires were burning, and they lost their property, their home. That's why they were here now with their girlfriend who lives next door to us. But basically they just have a van now, and that's parked outside. So they were speaking to me about it and saying that everything I owned, the house, everything is sacrificed to the fire gods, and this is actually the language that they used. And it's the energy of Scorpio, this burning away, because a lot of souls, in Earth's history, they carry these energetic patterns of security and holding on to things, and this trauma of loss, of physical loss, and so they experience it. But this is one way in which this karma can be wrapped up quickly through these extreme things that happen, because you're forced to kind of see in front of you that all of this that I identified with myself is gone. I identified myself as this, and it's now gone, but here I am still, and I'm all right. So even though things can be testing times, but it really, everything is about the expansion of consciousness. So going back to what I was saying was that I kept checking, because suddenly the air is good on the same day, and then it goes to another level and the other extreme, and that affects my health. So I kept checking the website again and again, and Spirit showed me how you might think that you're doing this for your security and you're planning ahead and it's all good, but sometimes we're feeding the old like this, because every time that you do something like that, it's different to just check once and then give it a rest, versus when we keep doing something out of need, out of necessity. Because in a way, you're always asking, am I safe? Am I safe? Every time you click that. And as long as you're asking, am I something, you are not experiencing that. So the thing to do then is to be centered and know that you are, in that moment, and just work with the breath, be present with the breath, because we never find ourselves in a situation where we can't handle it. Something is provided to us if we are present, whether that's through some guidance or hints from Spirit, or we go through that process of transformation within it, and we realize we're on the other side, and we're still here, we exist, and there's nothing more beautiful than that. And often these more challenging moments show us that. So yeah, I think I've spoken a lot in this video. There's just so much going on, and there's so many changes that are happening with your body as well. So be sure to spend lots of time in nature and nourish it properly with everything, the food and the things that you're reading online, all of it just needs to be lighter now. So I do have one last message in the end, because what happened was, yesterday, which was Thursday, I was supposed to share the daily guidance, because I make daily guidance videos, but it turned out to be a larger message which is related to this video as well, and that's why I didn't make that the daily guidance. I actually made this video yesterday, but there were some technical errors. So now I want to read out the message that I channeled. So I'll just end with that. The Galactic Human Convergence. The real meaning of integrity is being honest to ourselves. When we know the higher truth of something, our cells ignite with this awareness. Knowing this, if we still choose to feed a lower reality, then somewhere within we disappoint ourselves, and thus choose to live in such an energy of disappointment. Integrity is all about serving truth beyond any attachments to our comfort zone. When we choose to be faithful to truth, even when we don't feel whole or completely clear within ourselves, the truth has a way of merging hidden parts of us together to reveal the sovereign being that we are. A new side of our wholeness is coming to the fore. Especially as we interact with others, we are guided to express ourselves fully from it, leaving no part behind. For in fully coming from it in our interactions with the outside world, and especially those who are close to us as soul family, this wholeness is finding integration on earth as we land a new aspect of ourself. This is all part of a grander cycle that we are activating this year, when the focus of Ascension integration is shifting from just the individual to discovering how to master partnerships and co-creations within the new energy. Not only is our co-creation with other Earth angels expanding, but also galactically, which is what I was speaking about in the video. So we are co-creating with beings from the other dimensions that also serve creation, from different levels. There are new partnerships of service opening up, where we may be required to represent not only our old soul legacy, but the larger galactic legacy of light, in order to seed those blueprints on Earth. For our beloved Gaia is becoming a melting pot of star civilizations once more, and the unique wisdom of spiritual technology that they each hold and contribute to the making of all humans as the Galactic Human Race. So I want to leave you on that note, and please have a look at my blog, because I still have a special running. Some people asked me, and yes, that special on inner child healing sessions is still running, and it's going really well with the ones who did connect with me for it. So have a look at that, and all of the other things that I share as well on my blog. All of the links will be below, and I will see you again very soon.